European leaders vowed to act in full coordination to increase pressure on Russia as the so-called Coalition of the Willing gathered in London to discuss strategies to end the war in Ukraine. The meeting brought together key Western allies determined to show unity in supporting Kyiv. The leaders urged more countries to impose sanctions on Russian oil companies after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a new wave of restrictions targeting Moscow's two largest producers, Rosneft and Lukoil. Following Washington's move, the European Union introduced additional sanctions and agreed to provide financial support for Ukraine over the next 2 years. Europe now faces mounting pressure to resolve the long and devastating conflict as Russian aircraft continue incursions into European airspace and deadly strikes damage Ukraine's infrastructure. Despite repeated appeals for negotiation from Trump and other world leaders, Russian President Vladimir Putin has maintained his maximalist demands toward Kyiv and has refused to agree to an immediate ceasefire. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer emphasized that Ukraine's security is closely linked with that of the United Kingdom and its NATO allies. Ukraine's future is our future. What happens in the coming weeks and months will be decisive for the security of the UK and all our allies across NATO and beyond, Starmer said. Last week, the United Kingdom became the first country to sanction all of Russia's oil giants, including the same firms targeted by U.S. sanctions, Starmer noted. He stated that the combined impact of the U.S., UK, and EU sanctions not only hurts the Russian economy, but also proves that Western allies are clearly coordinating their efforts to support Ukraine effectively. The British Prime Minister called on more nations to go further, to reduce their dependence on Russian energy, and to encourage third countries to stop buying what he described as tainted resources. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his gratitude to Trump and other partners who had taken similar actions, calling the oil sanctions a big step forward. At the London press conference, Zelensky appeared alongside Starmer and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Diplomacy matters only when it can lead to real decisions, Zelensky said. And when it comes to Russia, that dish has many ingredients: strong sanctions, long-range capabilities, political pressure, accountability for war crimes, and concrete actions regarding Russian assets. Zelensky renewed his request for U.S.-made Tomahawk missiles to enable the Ukrainian military to conduct targeted strikes on Russian energy and oil facilities deep inside Russia. His initial appeal in Washington was turned down by Trump, but on Thursday, Zelensky urged the European Council to provide Ukraine with long-range weaponry. As Zelensky traveled to London to join the coalition talks, Russian attacks continue to pound Ukraine. At least 3 people were killed in missile strikes that hit residential areas in Kherson on Friday morning, local authorities reported. Long-range capability directly strengthens democracy, Zelensky said during the coalition's press conference. The more losses Putin suffers on his own territory, the fewer assaults he can launch on the front lines, and the sooner he will agree to meaningful diplomacy. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte argued that now is the right moment to increase pressure on Russia as Putin faces growing challenges on the battlefield. The truth is that Putin is running out of money, troops, and ideas. Now is the time to act decisively so that we can achieve a fair and just peace for Ukraine. Following what he described as a good meeting with Trump and Washington, Rutte praised the American leaders' new sanctions, saying they would starve Russia's 2 biggest oil producers. He added that the measures prove Trump is fully committed to ending this war and bringing a lasting peace to Ukraine. Trump, meanwhile, canceled a planned diplomatic summit with Putin that was to be held in Budapest, citing Moscow's lack of commitment to progress. The 2 leaders last met in Alaska earlier in the summer, but little progress was made. According to White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, Trump had not seen enough interest from Russia to move forward toward peace. Meanwhile, Russia's top economic envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, arrived in the United States to meet Trump administration officials and continue discussions about the U.S.-Russia relationship. Dmitriev said on X that his visit was planned earlier based on an invitation from the U.S. side. At the coalition meeting in London, Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof said that tightening economic pressure on Russia remains the only way to persuade Putin to engage in serious talks. Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, echoed that sentiment, saying the coalition had agreed to stay united. "I believe Putin's strategy has been to wait us out, to hope we will eventually stop. But that will never happen," Frederiksen said. The coalition reaffirmed its commitment to unity and coordination, stressing that sustained pressure on Moscow is the only path to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine.
This is Pulse 24 Global, the heartbeat of breaking news.